Welcome to the Valley Girls, the weekly podcast where we explore everything there is to see, do, try, eat, and experience in New York's Hudson Valley by talking to the makers, the doers, the growers, the creators, and all the unique voices of the Hudson Valley. We're telling the Hudson Valley's story one episode at a time. I'm Jenny Leifer, a lifelong Hudson Valley resident. When I'm not co-hosting Valley Girls, you'll find me talking all about health and wellness, finding the best gluten-free eats in the Hudson Valley, and giving back to the community through volunteerism and service.
And I'm Jennifer Santiago, a Hudson Valley native who has spent the past 20 years living in Texas. I'm currently splitting my time between Texas and the Hudson Valley as I'm in the process of moving back, and I'm so excited to explore and rediscover everything I love about the region, including hiking, history, and the local arts scene.
This week, we are shimmying into the local burlesque scene. We'll learn a little bit about the history of this art form and get to know some of the local performers, venues, and classes, and tell you about an upcoming show in Woodstock. But first, we'll talk to a Dutchess County farmer who would love to have you over to hang out with her alpacas and goats. But before we get into it, Jen, on last week's episode, you asked for suggestions for your New York playlist. How did that go?
It was great. We got so many good listener suggestions that I put together a Spotify playlist. So if you go to valleygirlspodcast.com to our About page, you can get the whole playlist there. But a few, I haven't told you any of this, a few that I wanted to tell you about that I wanted to highlight. So our friend LV from Found and Fixed, who's going to be on an upcoming episode, suggested New York by St. Vincent. That was solid.
Great pick.
That's on the playlist.
Pick.
Yep. Our girl Ladyfingers, who's coming up later in the episode, suggested Central Park West by John Coltrane. And Coltrane is always
nice.
a yes.
Yep. Always.
And Back to Manhattan by Nora Jones, who is magic.
I mean, of course, naturally.
Yep. I added New York's in Love by David Bowie. And that one is for you, Robert Burke Warren, who is our episode 1 star, who does a lot of Bowie tributes here in the area. And also Robert Burke Warren was generous enough to let us use his original composition for our podcast theme music.
Great, so he gets pick a Bowie. For that one.
Mm-hmm. And then Rob Proctor suggested, first of all, My Old School by Steely Dan. I am horrified that I left that off because, as you know, Donald Fagen is one of the loves of my life.
Yes.
If you're listening, Donald Fagen, call me. You can come on the podcast. But so Donald Fagen and Walter Becker met each other at Bard College. And so that's what My Old School is about. So that absolutely belongs on there. And then another one that I added at Rob's suggestion is Burnin' For You by Blue Oyster Cult. So first of all, that song just goes hard. Secondly, they're a Long Island band, but what I loved about it was that Rob said, yeah, they're from Long Island, but I used to see them whenever they played at the Chance in Poughkeepsie.
Oh, the Chance.
I know. I hadn't thought about the Chance in decades. And then I had this memory of you, me, and I think Dave Deal going there to see the Crash Test Dummies. Did that happen?
Wow. I don't remember. Is that crazy? I don't know that I've ever seen the Crash Test Dummies. I do feel like you and I went to the Chance together and Dave was probably with us, but oh my gosh, this is really sad that my memory is slipping away.
All right. Well, Dave, call us, let us know, help us out. What did we see at the Chance? I feel like it was the Crash Test Dummies. I could be wrong. But anyway, it was a lot of fun getting everybody's suggestions for the playlist. So if you want to get the whole thing, go ahead and go to the About page at valleygirlspodcast.com, and we can always add to it. So if you've got more suggestions, send them our way at any time.
And do you know that the Chance just recently closed, actually?
I did know that.
Yeah,
I know.
So sad.
I know.
So sad.
Bummer.
These are great suggestions. Thank you so much to everybody that chipped in. I love it. And I cannot wait, because this was a surprise for me as well, to get on Spotify and download that playlist and start listening. So thank you to everybody. Thanks, Jen. That was so fun. I am talking to Andrea Parent Tibbetts, the owner of Clover Brook Farm in Hyde Park. Hi, Andrea. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello. How is everyone today?
Very good. Thank you. So we found you because the Instagram algorithm correctly assumed that we would be delighted by a photo of baby goats wearing scarves, which we will post on our website for our listeners to see the cuteness. So here we are. Can you tell us a little bit about your farm?
I would love to. So our farm actually, the farm itself dates back to 1850. It was originally a dairy farm. But my husband and I, it's considered a family farm, purchased it in 2016. We kind of came about this a little unusual. I was a school administrator for 30 years in private schools and needed a huge change back in 2016, pre-COVID, which was perfect timing. My husband is a local college professor. So we decided to have some fun, as we say, start a new chapter. He's still working full time, but I decided to start a farm. Even though our focus is fiber farming, so we raise llamas, alpacas, sheep, and of course those cute little goats that you're referring to with the scarves on, those are Pygora goats. That's where mohair comes from. So that's kind of the premise of how it started. But we've always been a big community supporter for youth in agriculture. So we are a 4-H farm that goes back to actually have been and continue to support it since 2010. However, as you may or may not know, farming is not inexpensive, especially when you're in Dutchess County. And so you need to find ways to continue to support your costs, whether it's increased land taxes or just feed bills. So because we have so many friendly animals that work with a lot of our kids, we decided, and kids means human, but we can also refer to the goats as kids too. But we decided to open the farm up to people to come and have the same experiences that we do, which is we do a lot of, one may call it agritainment, even though it's under the umbrella of agritourism. I like to refer to it as edutourism because unfortunately you can never leave here without having some factoids in your pockets.
That is fantastic and all so fascinating. I love it. So you offer hikes, workshops, Llama Stay Yoga, which we are obsessed with the name of, by the way. You have a variety of classes. What are some of your offerings and how can people book a personalized adventure?
So they can go directly to our website, cloverbrookfarm.com. And I just want to differentiate that as Brook with an E. Happens to be 2 Cloverbrook farms in Dutchess County. We are the ones in Hyde Park. Everything is pretty much set up on the website. We are just starting to reopen for our season because we did have a little bit of a winter hiatus. March 15th is our reopening. And though not all of the experiences are populated through the calendar because we build slowly into the warmer seasons, just like everything else, but eventually you should be able to find something offered on at least 5 days a week, whether it's your llama alpaca hikes, it's your goat walks, it's your donkey walks, it's your llama stay yoga and lavender loofah sessions, which is on the weekend. And then, of course, we do a lot of, that's the other focus, is we just finished renovating our 1850 barn. And now we are offering classes, whether it's in soap making, beer making, loofah making, all kinds of stuff. And we look to continue to build that curriculum. So we'll have offerings for, I'm hoping, everyone. You need to come take the show on the road for Llama Stay Yoga. It's in our pavilion, which is about 1,200 square feet. And you've got 4 alpacas and 4 llamas kind of like walking around you, not stepping on you. And it's just, it's unusual. And, it's kind of a really nice experience. And people don't feel, they really are going for the fun, but the llamas themselves, no surprise, llama stay, are just very calming. And then we follow up with the loofah part, which is really meant to kind of pull together the whole experience of the fiber animals and what you can do with their fiber other than your typical yarn or, whether you're knitting or you're weaving or crocheting. We make loofahs, which is almost like, have you ever put a wool sweater in the wash mistakenly and it shrunk? So you're basically developing a covering on these soaps that we make here at the farm. That's the loofah part. And so, so it becomes... Yeah, we offer classes in the soap making, but at least with the Llama Stay Yoga Lavender Loofah, it's something you leave here with the farm. And, if you've ever taken a yoga class, sometimes the yogis will go around with some lavender oil on your shoulder, relax you. It's kind of the concept that came with it.
That is incredible. So, you could spend a whole day there between the classes and the hikes and the Llama Stay Yoga. It sounds like a whole day adventure.
You can. That's right. The one thing we don't have is we are not a farm-to-table farm, even though a lot of people come here thinking about food. We are placed perfectly just 10 minutes outside the town of Rhinebeck, and lots, as you may be familiar with, dining experiences all around. So we do say, and a lot of times people will come here for multiple experiences, and they typically will pack a lunch. We do have picnic tables, we have benches, and it's in a very rural country area, so relatively quiet. So if you really want to spend the whole day here, bring your own food. It actually is kind of a nice change from a lot of the people who come here are from the city. About 90% of our visitors are from New York City. And you can already imagine the difference between New York City and here in the country.
Yes. It just sounds like such a great experience to be able to disconnect and be with nature, and it sounds so peaceful and just beautiful. I would love to check out some of those classes and the hikes with the animals. I cannot wait to visit the farm. And you have donkeys too, right? Did I remember?
We have too many donkeys.
Oh.
And people absolutely love the donkey walks. Love the donkey walks.
100%. That's what I want to do is do the donkey walk.
They're sunny. We put a little antenna, just like the goats. I don't ever cover anything on their head because they don't like to have their ears adjusted. But I typically, with the goats, we have scarves. With the donkeys, we have bandanas. People come here for the holiday photos and they get dressed up and they have either the donkeys with them or the goats. It's actually cute. And the llamas, alpacas.
Oh, super cute. Oh, I cannot wait. Thank you so much for being here and for telling us all about Cloverbrook Farm. You can find Andrea and her goats on Instagram at Cloverbrook Farm, Hyde Park, NY. That's Brook with an E at the end. Andrea, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Our featured guest today is Rebecca Ash, also known by her stage name Lady Fingers, also known as a bonus Valley Girl, and our bestie Bex. Hi.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me on today.
We're so thrilled you're here. This is Lady Fingers' official showbiz bio. She is a former New York City actor and dancer. Lady Fingers has performed off-Broadway and at the acclaimed Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, training with such choreographers as Sahaya Smith and Sue Samuels. Since 2016, she has been scratching her dance and character development itch through burlesque, beginning her Burly Q adventure in Austin, Texas, before relocating to Albany, New York. She was a founding member of and primary choreographer for Fringe with Benefits burlesque troupe in Austin, a member of the showgirl clown troupe Fufuha Austin chapter, and performs as a solo artist across the U.S. Festival credits include the NOLA Nerdlesque Festival, the Midwest Burlesque Festival, the Texas Burlesque Festival, the Ohio Burlesque Festival, Big D Burlesque Festival, RVA Burlesque Festival, the Vermont Burlesque Festival, and the Salt City Burlesque Festival. Lady Fingers will make your cookie crumble.
Woo!
So we are going to talk to Lady Fingers about the art of burlesque. So tell us, Bex, what is burlesque and where did it come from?
So burlesque is a lot different than what is perceived today. When you tell people burlesque, they'll usually say, oh, it's fancy stripping, which isn't necessarily wrong, but that's not the roots of burlesque. So burlesque started back in I got notes here because I'm profesh. In 1868. It came over from England with Lydia Thompson and her her British blondes. So they came over to New York and kind of got picked up from there in vaudeville, and it was very ribald, a lot more political than people might realize. And just kind of went in together with that. And it stayed pretty popular for a while until, like most things, the fun police came by and said, you can't do that anymore. You're showing naughty dip. And so it kind of had to change and grow through there. It had a kind of strong demise back in the 60s. 60s and 70s is when it kind of started going away. And that's basically because you could get to see boobies anywhere. So you had to be more, show a lot more skin. And I mean, the whole stripping aspect was kind of later. The fixation on the stripping was a lot later than people might realize. So back in the 60s and 70s, you've got media, you've got films, you can see naked ladies, and the popularity began to diminish. So instead of art houses, that's where the strip club came from. You would go to a club, and that's normally what people think of today when you say a stripper, is from the club dancing. And then it had a revival in the early 90s, specifically in New York. Some people just wanted to revive this beautiful art form, and did. And it's gained a lot of popularity. There's a lot more acceptance of burlesque throughout the country. You'll hear a lot more about it. I'm hoping that you'll hear even more about it, because it's something that I think everyone should experience.
Are there some performers that we might know, people who were pivotal in sort of reviving burlesque back in the 90s and early 2000s?
Well, the most popular person that most people had heard of is Dita Von Teese, who actually got her start, like many burlesque artists today, more what we consider neo, was Dita Von Teese. She got her start in strip clubs, and then kind of ran from there. We've got so many amazing, what I like to call the pioneers of the neo movement. Dirty Martini, who's actually on tour with Dita right now. World famous Bob, who I was thrilled she moved to Austin. She's fantastic. You got Tigger, Pearl Noir, Joe Boobs Weldon, who started the New York Academy of Burlesque. All these people were very formative in taking it and owning it and making it formulating what it could be today, which is fantastic.
Now, just talking about burlesque as an art form that it is sort of like talking about pop music to encompass all the different genres and styles, right? I mean, there are many different varieties of burlesque, aren't there?
There are. What you think of today when we say burlesque is feathers and rhinestones and very posh, very glamorous, and that is, that's a great portion of it, but it's not the only part of burlesque. We call it that more classical neo. Neo is basically just, the difference between neo and classical is basically the time, the length of time. Back in the day, they used to be on stage for 15 to 30 minutes each, up on stage doing their thing.
Wow.
Now the acts are somewhere around 5 minutes, between 4 and 6 minutes long. So it's much shorter.
Like the length of one song.
Right. Exactly. Then you go off, and then you might come back and do another one, but you're not on stage for that huge length of time. But so you can do classical, and it's very fun, and it is very beautiful, and it feels very pretty. But that's not the only thing. And that's one of the things I love so much about it, is there's so many different, you've got Nerdlesque. I was in the the NOLA Nerdlesque Festival in my Rosie the Robot costume, and Boylesque. So men, this is not just females or female presenting only. You've got Gothlesque, Grotesque, or Gore. You can be political. You don't have to be political. You can be weird, which is what I really like to lean into. It's got a lot more comedy in it than just standing up with your beautiful feather fans and your boas, which is gorgeous. And when done really well, it's spectacular. But my jam is more of the funny, weird stuff. I would rather make
Well,
it
so
laugh.
I was at what I think was your very first show. It was your graduation recital when you were taking class in Austin. It was at the Swan Dives. It was 175 degrees. And I was so impressed with the variety of acts and the athleticism.
Mhm.
And you've come a long way since then. And as you said, there's a lot of different styles. I would dare to say that you are sort of a boundary breaker. Yours are humorous, but there's so much they're so well thought out. There's a theme, and the music is on point, and the costuming is absolutely over the top. So you have holiday acts where you are hot chocolate. You have Gingy, where you have this giant stuffed gingerbread person head that you wear. You have an outfit that is made entirely out of balloons that you pop throughout the act. And so I just want to know more about where you get this inspiration, how you know how to make these costumes. And if you don't mind, will you tell us about your most recent costume? Because I truly think you have outdone yourself in creativity and outlandishness with this latest creation.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I would love to say that this is like I'm unique in all of this, but there's so much of what I do out there, and it's done really well. The community is huge. You kind of find what makes you the happiest to do on stage, and then go for it. If you look back on either the photos or the video of my very first act, the costume was so sad. Oh my God, the costume was so sad. I was in like a tutu. No, it wasn't even a tutu. It was a crinoline that's supposed to go underneath the skirt, and this wonky corset. There was not one rhinestone on it. Like, you don't have to have rhinestones, but compared to what I do now, I look back on that and go, well, the dance was cute, but that costume was so basic and sad. But
you were just a baby burlesque performer back then. Yeah.
I've come a long way, and I have to say, give credit where credit is due. You learn tricks and tips along the way from more seasoned performers and from people who've been doing this longer than you. And you're always learning and growing, and trial and error. Some things work, some things I've had calamities on stage where my dress refused to come off at all. And then what do? So you kind of work through these things and learn and grow from that. But this brand new act is to 8-piece box by Southern Culture on the Skids, and I am a big bucket of chicken.
I love it. I love it.
I know you can't see this. Oh, I promise you, we will put up pictures. Rebecca will give us a blog post. We will show you this genius, bizarre bucket of
genius and bizarre for sure.
I made the bucket out of a laundry basket. Bottom out of it, covered the whole thing in a shower curtain. Slapped on a KFC emblem, glued chicken all over it. Not real chicken, obviously, but and then did the whole stress and everything. So if you look inside, it's a big mess. But the outside version is, it's really fun. And I get out of that, and then I'm just as a very glamorous chicken.
Amazing.
My tassels, I think, are my favorite part that I've done. Because a lot of us make our own pasties. You don't have to, but I made tassels out of rubber chickens, little tiny rubber chickens. And I made the pasty the egg. So you got fried egg pasties and rubber chicken tassels. Amazing. And I hide little rubber chickens in panties and fling them out.
This is incredible.
For people who are just getting their first burlesque education here, we should mention what pasties are and why.
Yes. Okay. So pasties are those pretty things, and not necessarily pretty, but usually they are, because why not? They cover your nipple, and that's mainly because of the blue laws that are out there. You're not allowed to, and states vary. Blue laws vary from state to state. But you're not allowed to show nipples. The pasties came from that, from having to adhere to the laws saying that, decency laws. And of course, that's only meant for women. Apparently, male nipples are A-okay. But I would say nearly all performers who are male or male presenting in burlesque, they do wear pasties out of solidarity, because it's not fair if you can't, what's the difference? Okay, one or the other. A nipple's a nipple. So I think I've seen maybe one performer who was male presenting who didn't wear pasties. And it was pretty much a scandalo. But you're like, come on, man, solidarity. You gotta cover the nips.
That
So,
I
yeah,
did not know about that. That's pretty cool. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the whole creation of the costumes. I mean, the performance alone is incredible and genius and so talented. But the costumes, like you are just so brilliant and so talented and creative when it comes to your costumes. I mean, I know in general burlesque, but you are unbelievable. And the pictures, whenever you're rhinestoning something, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I personally have had the pleasure of being at your shows. One thing that really strikes me is how accessible burlesque is, and just the whole body positivity that seems to be just inherent in the burlesque culture. Is that a big part of it?
Absolutely. And it's one of the things that really drew me into burlesque. You hear about the typical stripper being very young and thin and usually white, or, you got that archetype when you say the word stripper. But with burlesque, it's all body types. It's all ages. Everything is kind of all encompassed. You don't have to be thin and young and classically beautiful. There's a lot of body positivity. There could be more. I think in the past few years specifically, there's a lot more inclusivity because minorities, people of color, people of size, disabilities, they're more vocal about being included. And I think a lot of producers are to heart, and the change was slow coming, but I think it's gotten even further since I started 7-8 years ago. But yeah, you're gonna go on stage and just be you. You've got this body to work with, and you don't have to compare it to others. And inherently as women, we do. But one of the most freeing things about being on stage in that is that it's your burlesque audience is coming to see variety, and that's not just variety in the acts; it's the variety in the performers as well. Because one size doesn't fit all. You've got people who are attracted to all kinds of things, and it runs the gamut. So what's going to turn somebody on is not necessarily what's going to turn this other person on. And one of the most wonderful things about being a burlesque performer is going out and seeing people in the audience, women specifically, who go, you know what, I don't think I could ever do that, but you look like me, so having that representation is really important, and starting that conversation, being like, well, why not? Oh, I'm to this, I'm to that, I could never do this, and it's so brave of you to do that. I'm like, it's not brave. This is my body. There's nothing brave about my body. It's changing. I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm not as thin as I used to be. There's sagging going on here, but it's my body. And this is what I'm doing with it. And people seem to like it. So, don't ever sell yourself short. Of course, you could still go further with inclusivity, but it's there. And I think that's a really important component. It's really a really great thing to see the women in the audience having a great time and looking at somebody and going, okay, that's sexy. Maybe I'm sexy. Maybe you're in the audience and you're like, oh, I'm not that, I'm not sexy, blah, blah, blah. And then you see someone on stage doing what they're doing with their body that looks like yours, and you go, oh, wait a second, I am pretty, I am beautiful, I am sexy, I can do that. And then you go home with a little more confidence, and then you present that out to the world. So it really is an honor to be able to do that.
It's empowering. It is. And it's so much fun to be at the shows and you're just vibing and you're like, woo, women rule. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so empowering. And that message is just, it's part of just the beauty of burlesque and why I love it so much as well. So now that we're all curious and excited to go to some performances, do we need to hop on a train, go down to the city for this? Is there any local scene here?
We've got a great local scene, and it's just growing. So I started over in Austin, where the scene is fantastic. There's lots of burlesque and lots of opportunities, and moved back to Albany area 3 years ago, and that was right after COVID. So things were shut down still. So even 3 years later, 2.5 years later, we're still finding our feet as live performers. And that's true of all, not just burlesque, but music and theater. We're all still navigate our ways post-COVID. But we've got a great scene up here. There's lots of burlesque if you know where to look for it. You're looking in Rochester, there's some really great stuff going on up there. Here in Albany, we've got some great staff. Talking about the Hudson Valley, there's a really great producer named Tristan Noir, who I've had the absolute joy of working with numerous times, and she's doing great things down there. Some of the stuff to check out in the Capital District, there is the Bijou Show, which I do a lot, which is not necessarily burlesque. It's touted as adult variety, and includes things like drag and comics and magicians, and belly dance is really huge there. So that's with Cherish Holmes, which is fantastic. Pop Culture Provocateurs is one of the biggest ones here. Started a while ago. They've got some great stuff going on. T.Z. Roosevelt, Noel Rain, Persephone Pong, Boucher Bardot. We've got some great classes going on. One of the performers, she used to live in Florida. She is a big name down in Florida, and she's back here. And I've had the absolute joy of getting to know her, not only on stage, and she teaches as well, and I take a lot of her classes, but also just as a friend. That's Nilla Bean. She teaches, she has a class tomorrow about giving face, because you can just stand up there and you can just take clothes off, but it's not engaging, and after you've seen some boobs, just give me something more. And so she teaches a class on how to give good face and how to, be more theatrical. We've got Harley Fox, who does some great classes, and she's a powerhouse. Chevy Nova. So those are all like the Capital District. Can you get my
Chevy Nova?
These names are amazing.
But Nilla's class on giving face sort of reminds me that, in the business world, a lot of people get into doing improv and stand-up, not because they want to be comics, but because they want to build those skills. And so I'm just, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, giving face, that's such a great thing to do for people who just do a lot of public speaking and presenting, or even when you're on a Zoom call. I know my face often belies my emotions. So I think that there's real skill set, even if you don't ever plan on performing burlesque or an adult variety show. I'm intrigued by that.
It's been great. My beginning was acting anyway, so I already have a lot of emoting from my face. They called rubber face more than one time. But
thanks.
Okay. I have an act that I'm a blow up dinosaur, and I never come out of it, but she strips. And you can see, I see through the teeth. And I have a shot from, I think, the RVA Burlesque Festival a couple of years ago, or maybe it was last year. You get photographs from it, and you can see into the angle of the photographer caught what was going on in the mask, and I'm giving full face. I'm making faces inside the costume that you're never going to see. It's just that ingrained. And yeah, so, but it is.
But tell us her name. What is your dinosaur's name?
That's
your dinosaur.
That's Rexanne.
Rexanne.
And police's Roxanne, and it is a big blow up Rex the dinosaur from Toy Story. She's bedazzled. She's got lashes. She's got a diamond tooth, and she takes off a bra and a boa, and it's just the silliest. It's just the silliest.
So much
Yeah,
fun. So much
but
fun.
yeah, I mean, I encourage anybody who wants to get more comfortable just talking to other people to look at acting classes and improv and learning how to be more comfortable talking to people and being on stage, because that is a huge part of business today, especially now that we're doing a lot of Zoom stuff and, long distance thing where it's not just phone calls anymore. It's not just a conference call. Now it's a Zoom call, and you need to check this.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I personally, the last show that I saw you was at Pearl Moon in Woodstock, and I believe you are going to, as you mentioned before, you have an upcoming show coming up in Woodstock.
That is Benoit. She has the Strange House Presents, and that is going to be the Vixens of Vaudeville is the name of this show, and that is at the Colony in Woodstock, which is a fantastic venue. Man, this is so great. I love, love, love this venue. Really cool stage. They've got a balcony. It kind of reminds me of an old-timey saloon where, you can stand up at the top and watch. That is on March 29th. It's a little bit late. It starts at 10, so take a disco nap, and then come see us. It starts at 10. I think I can get you the link for the website to come on and check it out, but it is a lot of fun. And this particular show I'm super excited about, because one of the bigwigs from the Syracuse and that area, her name is Gina the Machina, and she's in it, and she's doing a champagne act. So she's in the champagne glass, and everything's absolute perfection. So I'm totally geeking out that I get to perform with a performer of this caliber. But it's
her Instagram is great. I think you did something with her one other time, maybe your Rochester show, and I started following her on Instagram, and she is really impressive.
It's gorgeous. I met her through Salt City Burlesque Festival last year, and she's just gorgeous, honestly. And her Instagram is a lot of fun. She's like this tiny little blonde that looks like Marilyn Monroe, honestly.
So if we come to your show at the Colony in Woodstock, or really any show, but we come to see you and Gina the Machina and Trish Lenoir, how do we not be weirdos? When I was asking about the pasties before, I was also kind of getting at the fact that people should know that this is not a full nude thing. It's dancing, it's titillating, but it's an art form. So is there any etiquette that people need to know about if this is going to be their first time attending a burlesque show?
Absolutely. And luckily, most of the producers or the host will explain these things going into it. Of course, it's always great to know what you're getting into going to see a show, so you know if it's this is your thing or not. Like I like to call it burlesque. Number one is consent is key. Keep your hands to yourself. You should not be touching anybody. They should not be touching you without consent. That goes for performers and your neighbors. Just don't lay hands on people, especially performers. And you'd think that'd be a no-brainer, but there's always someone who's trying to cop a feel, and it's that's not what this is. So always keep your hands to yourself. That said, make a lot of noise. I mean, the more interactive, the more you hoot and holler and are into it, the more we're into it. And then we feed off that collective energy, which is why I love this so much. It's not just me standing on stage and doing something I've choreographed. It's very interactive. So if you've got that great energy going, it's just going to be even better. Please tip. It takes a lot of money to look as cheap as we do. I mean, we don't make money. 99% of burlesque performers, we're not making our living doing this. Most people. There are the exception to the rule, but most of us are doing this because we love it. Our costumes cost way more than what we're getting as a fee for, when we get paid for a show. our costumes, which we invest in and use them multiple times, that's a lot of money. So please tip and have fun. Really, it's
So basically, even the audience needs to be giving face.
absolutely. I think so. I mean, I can see okay, but maybe you want to step back a little bit, in the further section. And yeah, it's please live. Local theater is so important. Go see your local musicians. Go see your local theater troupes and companies. Go see your local dancers. There's so much of it here, and it can't continue unless we have your support. Monetarily, just support in general. This is where good art stems from. It all comes from something. So there's a lot to be seen and had and do. And right in your own backyard. So just, look for it. It's there. We want to dance for,
This is so great. Thank you so much for being here with us today. So happy you could be here. And I know that you have read up pretty extensively on the history of burlesque. So for everyone listening who's maybe hungry for more from Ladyfingers, I know Jen mentioned before, maybe we can make that a blog post.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to educate, see where it came from, and pay homage to our legends, because they are really the people, the living legends now are the ones we need to recognize and say thank you to. And just knowing where it comes from makes it better to continue the art form and go forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll also put links to local artists, teachers, venues we talked about, all of that. We'll make sure that gets in the blog post on the website. All the other links, everything will be in the show notes. So please check it out. March 29th, right? March 29th at Colony. Check out Ladyfingers. And again, just thank you so much for being here, Bex. We really appreciate it. Love having you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all our listeners. We hope you enjoyed listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the Valley Girls, please follow our podcast from our show page on whichever platform you listen from. Leave a rating and review and share our podcast with others. We appreciate it so much. To stay up to date with the Valley Girls and for more content, you can find us at valleygirlspodcast.com, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Links to all our social media accounts are in the show notes. We just really appreciate all of this. And also, you can connect to all of our social media through our homepage at valleygirlspodcast.com. So thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
The music for this episode is by Robert Burke Warren, entitled Painting a Vast Blue Sky, and can be found on his album Redheaded Friend, available on iTunes and Spotify, and at the link in the show notes.